Hi everybody, welcome to my Tuesday vlog. I'm out and about as you see. This week I'm going to talk about some heavy duty decisions that my husband and I have made because we've been really kind of in a neutral space and now we're back on getting ourselves to France and going room to room to do it. We're setting deadlines because we don't want France to be a someday thing. We don't want to end up never going because it's always going to be someday or there's always going to be some kind of hindrance to going. So all of those things we have tabled and we are now setting deadlines for each room. My art studio is first to, I've sanded everything down, I've done all the stuff like that. I'm gonna putty the rest this afternoon and then it's painting time and then we'll move to another room and hopefully within about 8 to 10 weeks we'll be able and ready to hire the workers that need to come in and do the big stuff like refinishing our floors and stuff like that. And then we will be ready to go. For those of you who want to see a week in the life and hear a bit of deep discussion that couples need to have instead of avoiding the issue, we need to have these discussions so that we can be on the same page and so that one person doesn't end up resenting the other because they think that they're not on the same page. That's one of the things we're going to talk about today. I'm also going to show you some clips of the stuff I've been doing in my new little office studio in the front room, as well as showing you clips of what I'm doing. So I hope you'll come with me and we'll get to it. Hi y'all. Well, I've gotten pretty much everything out except the shelving and the stuff in my studio, even with a broken finger. I got a few little bits and bobs there. That is a giveaway box. Paint supplies and plastering supplies are over in the corner and paint rags also in the corner, but everything left in here outside of this little thing right here, this little fairy. I don't know what I'm going to do with her. She belonged to my mom, my former mother-in-law, who I loved until the day she died. But this one wasn't like one that I loved a lot, so I don't know. But it reminds me of her, so I haven't decided yet. I'm not a big knick-knack person, as you can probably assess. So Dale and I have set ourselves a deadline now because the scattershot, doing a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit other things over here, just was not working. This room is now ready to get repaired, plastered, sanded, and painted. And then we will have this room completed. And our deadline for this room has been set. We had a little sit down and our deadline has been set. This is I'm recording this on a Sunday. The deadline to finish this room as far as painting and repairing and all of that stuff is this upcoming Friday. So we have 5 days to do that. I have to fill up all these holes and plaster. That's my next job. So tomorrow, that is what I will spend my time doing, is sanding all the holes. That's where we are. Now that I'll have to tell you, we sat down and had ourselves a little powwow because both of us, I was feeling anxious because I feel like nothing's been getting done. And I felt like hubby was dragging his feet a little bit, but he was feeling anxious because my anxiety to push, let's get this done, was making him anxious. And when he gets anxious, instead of talking about it, he feels like he's going to shut down. So we had a good sit down talk and explained each other's feelings. And then we both decided that we need to start setting deadlines to get work done or we're not going to get it done. And saying someday about someday we'll get to France is not going to work. Someday's never going to come unless we set the deadline and get going. We will have a date the minute we put this house up for sale and get a contract date to sign a contract. That is when we will decide our moving date to France. But right now, our deadline is to give every single room in the house 1 week to empty and get rid of and repair and paint and fix. So that is the goal. And that means it'll probably be about 8 weeks before we have all the rooms fixed except for the living room and the kitchen. And then we will do those, and then we will list the house. Well, actually, first we'll hire out. The minute we get the front of our house, well, let me take you there. The minute we get the front of the house, all the rooms up here emptied, we're going to hire someone to come in and redo our oak floors. They're going to need to sand them down and refinish them so that the people coming in to view the house will see how gorgeous they are when they are refinished. So we'll hire out for that, but our job is to make those deadlines and get this stuff out of here within the next 6 to 8 weeks so that we can hire someone to come in and do the floors up here. Since I've cleaned out my studio room, my little office is here in the living room, and I've brought everything out that's going to have to be fitted into my little office space. So there's not as much as it looks. It looks cluttered right now because that's the few things I've brought back out to declutter. But I will be able to arrange things so that all of my art supplies and my writing materials and everything else will be right here in my little office, which is right in front of the place where I sit to film. That's my little corner of the world as we get every other room finished. This is the view from my office and living room space. It's a nice view, huh? But it's super duper hot, and we're in the middle of a terrible drought, so that even when you try to use the hose, the grass is brown already, and it's just June. Usually the grass doesn't brown like this until August. We're getting it's just bad. If I turn on the hose and spray it toward the ground, even when it's not like a jet, it just pulls patches of dead grass up and makes a patch of just dirt. So I'm not going to be doing that. But we can't even think about potentially burning anything or burning brush or doing anything like that as we clear the outside, or if I'm burning old paperwork that isn't going to come with us. We just can't. It's just too dangerous right now because of this terrible drought. And thanks to a bunch of data centers burning up all of our water supply, it's not getting much better as far as water shortages and people needing to conserve water. We have a very shallow well here, so we're very careful to conserve water so that it has time with the groundwater to sift back in from other places, from other water sources. And we're near a river basin here, which at least is helpful, but the river's also low. So, hopefully we won't run out of water before we're ready to leave. But we are trying to conserve as much as we can. I won't be taking any baths in my deep garden tub anytime soon. Send some vibes out to the southeastern part of the US, because we're all feeling the drought right now. Okay, well, that's today's update. I'll see you when I get ready to film the rest of my Tuesday vlog. Happy back to the vlog day. It's Sunday, and now that the room has been cleared, I still have a few of these awful little things to get out of the walls where they've been mounted for a long time. And then I will be ready to start sanding and plastering, and then waiting for that to dry, and then painting. So that's today. All those pegs out of the wall finally, and now comes the sanding. Hello. Well, since I've emptied my art studio out and packed away the things I won't be using, I have created a little studio office in my sitting room. And it is actually right next to where I work on my computer and to where I sit and talk to make most of my videos. So it's going to be my nice little corner of the world while we are working to empty and fix every other room in the house. This room, which is our front room, our sitting room, and our bedroom will be the last rooms that we clear out. We decided to not take out the gross carpet in my studio right now, because what we're going to do is we're going to paint the room and fix all the baseboard and all of that stuff, and then vacuum it really well. And then we're going to use that room as storage to put the boxes that we're going to move with us in, and also to move some of the staged things like the spare bedroom bed out of the front when we bring somebody in, a workman, to refinish all of the oak floors we have in the front of the house. We're getting things done. Finally, we're getting things done. We want out of here. Well, I'll show you my little corner of the world, how I fixed it and how I've organized everything in my next vlog. I didn't quite get it finished before I could add it to this one, but I wanted to talk about a little bit of news that we're experiencing here in the US, but also parts of France are experiencing too, and that is impending or recurring drought. I talked earlier in this video about how we're in a pretty bad drought here in the southeastern United States, and I was reading a news article that talks about several different regions of France starting to restrict water and implement water restrictions, or tell people we're going to be implementing water restrictions soon because of their fears of impending drought. Now, those regions right here in the US, it's mostly the eastern coast of the US all the way down to the south and parts of the south. There are drought regions elsewhere in the United States as well, but right now we're in an excessive drought. I told you that our grass is already dead and brown and dying. You crunch when you walk across the lawn. The lawn is no longer growing, so I guess it's a good thing we're not mowing right now, but it's pretty bad. But I wanted to let you know, those of you who are in France or who are thinking about moving to France, that climate change is affecting us all. And one of the good things about France, however, is that they're reacting to it. And yes, there are still people on the far right in France and other parts of the EU and Europe who are climate change deniers, which is just dumb, because climate change happens regardless of whether you think it was man-made or just a product of thousands of years of environmental change. It's happening. Climate change is happening regardless of what is causing it. But at least France is doing its part to try to create more green spaces and create livable environments as the climate begins to change. There are going to be more storms, there are going to be more droughts, there are going to be more wildfires, there are going to be even more tornadoes and weird stormy events. So that is one thing. One thing I'm glad about right now in our drought is that we're not having lightning storms, because lightning can be one of the worst causes of fires during a drought. And we are surrounded by forest land here, so if there was a wildfire here, we'd be in big trouble. So we do have insurance for that, but still, we'd have to evacuate with our 3 animals and as much as we could get out of the house to get away if something like that happens. So we'll just, fingers crossed, hope nothing like that happens. There are no lightning storms in our future, so maybe the drought will break before then. We are supposed to get a little bit of rain toward the end of this week, but it probably won't be enough to break the drought. Hopefully it'll at least be enough to wet things in our yard, but it is what it is. In France, there is an alert for water restrictions in the Creuse and Hérault districts. There's an enforced alert, as in you need to start, in Aisne, Ardennes, and Indre. There is a crise, or a crisis in English, in the Loire and the Pyrenees Orientales. So they're already calling it a crisis there as far as drought. Restrictions in these places range from limits on when vehicles can be cleaned or washed, gardens watered, to a halt on swimming pools being refilled or topped up. At the highest crise level in those two regions I listed, all but essential water usage is banned. So it's a big deal. Here in our area, parts of Raleigh and other parts of North Carolina are calling for decreased usage of water. People are being asked to time their showers to be shorter, to not leave their water running if they're on city water, especially. Again, we're on a well, so we don't want that well to go dry. So we're being very conservative with our water usage as well. That's the news of this week. It ain't great, but it's what's happening all over. And stay tuned to next week and I'll have another fun story. So if you stayed with me this long, thank you so much. Please hit that thumbs up button. Yes, my finger's still broken, but it's feeling better, finally. It's not as swollen as it was. Please hit that thumbs up button down below. It really does help me in the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you want to learn more about towns or cities in France where you might want to live one day, or you're just interested in the history, stick with me. And on Fridays is when I post my videos about either things that are happening in France, like visa changes, etc., or deep explorations and research into towns and villages in France. This Friday, we're going to have a really fun one, and it's a bit cheeky too, this town in France that we're going to talk about. I'll let you think about what I mean by that until I publish on Friday. I hope to see you soon. Have a great week, everybody. Love ya. Bye.